Much like David, I have crammed a lot into this talk. I'll hopefully manage to get through in the time. If not, if I need to rush through a couple of things, we can touch base on that afterwards as well.
Cool, thank you.
Thank you for the lovely introduction, Dan. And one thing I'd love to add, just in terms of my background, I have spent the last 30-ish years coming from a design background, working at the intersection of human-centered product innovation and technology. Now, to many people, that sounds like I'm a geek who spent a lot of time in Silicon Valley and working with organizations to transform them, to better deliver, better create value for their customers. But really, I'm not all that technical. So my talk is very much in the same space as David's and Jess's this morning. I'll be picking up on a couple of those themes that you've already heard about, and I'll be sharing those perhaps from a little bit of, from a similar perspective, but with my own lens. And very much like Public Digital, today I also work with organizations to help them in that transformation and help them adopt all of these different ways of working and new technologies as well. But today I want to talk to you about navigating the hype cycle. We talked a lot about the hype of AI, and I want to help you figure out strategies to apply AI to your organization when you're only just starting out, and without alienating your customers in the process. Now, we've all experienced this. Actually, David, you mentioned this with your anonymous CIO earlier. I've heard this through the bench from a lot of different people. AI is everywhere, right? The expectations are buzzing. It's not just the markets, but it's also your boss, your execs, the board. They're all excited to hear and really want to know, what are you going to do about AI? And while we're all trying to figure out what that is, we're all rushing to figure this out. And it's not just about getting that idea to market, getting it launched to finally be able to answer that question, what is it going to be? You also need to try and figure out, what is a purpose in your specific context? What is a meaningful, valuable application of AI in your business? Let me share a slightly different kind of story briefly before we get stuck in. I've had a defining moment last year when my parents started talking about AI. Now, I wouldn't call them early adopters of new technology, but my mum was on the phone and she was furious. Her bank had sent her a letter demanding immediate action to rectify something. Otherwise, there would be terrible consequences. And the worst thing about this, she had already supplied all that information. She had it in writing, confirmation from the bank that A, her account is closed, and B, she had given them all the information that was required for that. Of course, with this kind of urgency, stress levels skyrocketed. And first thing she wanted to do was actually trying to get hold of a human, actually speak to someone to quickly resolve this. Of course, what she first got was chatbots. They couldn't answer her a unique question. She finally got through to a human in a call center. She quickly figured out they were not empowered to actually solve that problem for her. It was off script. So frustrated, she figured out, okay, I need to drive into the next major town. None of the local branches were actually still open. And she mentioned, you know what? They make it even harder to get hold of them. A, the opening hours have been radically reduced, really awkward. And then they don't even have a letterbox anymore. I can't even post my questions to them, at least not to the local branch. And I certainly can't get hold of my account manager. So when she finally managed to get through to a human who was actually able to help her, they said, oh yeah, that letter, our AI automatically writes that, and the AI has no idea what we agreed about your account. And just like that, horrible customer experience, real complete failure of customer experience. And bottom line to the story is, my mum is never banking with that institution again. And Beyond that, as a product person, as a designer, I often see that embellishments get confused with innovation. We often get asked to, make something shiny and make something sparkle, but as if that by itself makes the product more useful. What people actually need to do is to understand what does useful mean. What can we actually do with this new technology or old technology to actually solve a problem or meet a need of our customers? That also applies to AI. Actually, I love your umbrella slide a lot better than my own. But in the spirit of the conference, I also wanted to quickly mention, when we talk about the current AI hype, it's really only a small subset of the large umbrella of AI and machine learning data that we're talking about. It's all about generative AI, I hope, at the moment. And with that, so where do you actually decide to place your strategic bets with all this exciting new stuff coming along? I want to offer the help of to navigate this with Gartner's hype cycle. It's an idealized, stylized response to a major new, disruptive new technology entering the market. You might see, starting with a technology trigger, it might be large language models, a few early applications that inspire our collective, imagination, that really let our expectations skyrocket, and really creating a lot of hype and creating a lot of inflated expectations. You might get that so far, that hype so far that it moves from outside of our workspace, outside of our offices, into the mainstream. Media starting to talk about this, and new terms making it into everyday conversations, like, just Google that, or there's an app for that, or just ask ChatGPT. But with expectations, you rarely ever get to actually meet them, as David was also pointing out. So organizations start getting, not every early entry to market is really a winner. Organizations start feeling, like, why are we investing money in this? We end up in this early trough of disillusionment because we just cannot meet the expectations of the hype. And really from there, finding a way up to a more reasoned approach to figuring out, okay, what is a useful application for this in our context? What problems can we solve with this? What opportunities for innovation are there? That should then hopefully get to a plateau of productivity, where a larger number of organizations have adopted this new technology and have figured out ways to integrate that into their product offering. Thankfully, we've experienced this kind of hype before, so we can learn from that. I think most of you have probably been around when Apple launched the App Store and the iPhone, and that was only in 2008. It feels like it's been forever, but it didn't take long for everyone asking me for ill-advised, please, can you just build this app? Whether no one asked for it, it had no purpose to it, but we really need this app. And I was trying to figure out, with these inflated expectations and app being, word of the year by one of the crowned word of the year by one of the dictionaries, what might be an illustration of that trough of disillusionment. And I don't know if you remember that I'm Rich app. It cost $1,000. It did nothing other than show this sort of red gem. But really from there, figuring out, broader application, more measured applications for what can we do better with an app that we couldn't do before? Where can we innovate? Things like disrupting whole industries like Uber, finding a way to make that really valuable and practical. So where are we with the Gen AI hype cycle at the moment? And we've been living this for a little while now. I think we're just over the cusp. We're seeing a little bit disillusionment, but I'm not quite sure that we've actually managed to get through the whole of the hype just yet. But I'm certainly seeing, not just a lot of people clamoring to add a chatbot to their offering, but also a million tutorials to tell you, like in half an hour, I can tell you how to make a chatbot, so you can have one too. So it's really about, in this massive rush to figure out how to harness AI for your business, Let's avoid creating stuff that sends us into the trough of disillusionment instead. I want to briefly touch on some of the things we've learned in working with AI already, and that helps us inform our own strategies for our businesses. So first of all, and I think you've heard about this already before today, you need skilled people to do AI, not just tools. And I see quite a few organizations sort of scrimp on this and rush ahead and not invest properly in a team and the capabilities. Innovation is not adding bells and whistles. You really need a purpose for your innovation. It's equally risky to be too laissez-faire about embracing new technologies, not really paying any attention to what risks that could bring, what unintended consequences that could have. But equally, being too slow to figure out, to actually embrace a major disruptive new technology. David spoke to this earlier as well. Major disruptive technologies also require that we most likely need to transform how we do things and how we work. That requires time. That doesn't happen overnight. That requires people, and it also requires adequate investment. Like most other things in an organization, AI doesn't work well in a silo. And finally, we also spoke about this already today, AI needs appropriate data to actually work. So I flipped these 6 learnings into questions that help you guide your strategy conversations. So first of all, do you have the right skills in the organization to do something new and make it successful? Picking up right from your notion about how do you do innovation well in your organization when there is something disruptive and interesting and new that could be valuable. Since Gen AI has become incredibly accessible with just a text box, I've seen a huge spike in enthusiastic hobbyists who've been trying to apply AI. And don't get me wrong, I think great ideas can come from everywhere, on anywhere, but it's critical that you pull on an AI expertise when you're evaluating and implementing an idea. And I'm borrowing this illustration from Alex Osterwalder. You might know him from operating model Canvas and lots of other lean startup tools. Most organizations have developed safeguards to protect their current business model and build practices and teams to incrementally improve existing solutions. And that is a valuable skill set. But if your organization has spent a lot of time on the left-hand side here, does it still have the skills necessary to search for new opportunities? What space might you need to create for those teams to be able to do this work? I don't want to say best practices either, but we'll get into more details about that. And do you have the peoples and the skills required to navigate this highly uncertain and unpredictable space? Simon Wardley offers us a great framework to think about these different skill sets and different types of people. Explorers look at the opportunities and identify new possibilities and in unidentified and highly changeable contexts. They're the inventors, the people who come up with new ideas and take them from 0 to 1. Villagers are the people who are scaling and growing these into viable products and services. And town planners work on scaled products with high volume managing operational efficiencies. The people in each of these categories have a distinct different skill sets, and don't expect that everyone will be able to shift from one to the other, for example, from town planning back to exploring. I think we've all been speaking about this today. Does AI actually add value to your products and services? Does it create possibilities for you to innovate? Like my mum, more and more people are actually growing quite weary of AI products and services. So how are you going to identify purposeful and trustworthy applications for AI in your context. And here we're really going back to, oh, sorry, wrong way around. Here we're really going back to product fundamentals. This has nothing to do whether you're integrating AI or not. You really need to balance the emerging AI capability with end user desirability. That is, what problem are you solving, or what need or desire are you addressing with your idea? What's the business viability? Can we build a sustainable business around that? What's the technical feasibility? Can we actually build this thing? And one pattern I see with a fair few of my clients is they get stuck in making proofs of concept simply because the technology can enable that, but there's no real purpose and no real need behind that would make it a viable product. And then together, as a cross-functional group, apply rigorous discovery and design process for product development. And it starts with identifying the most valuable problems to solve for your customers, not a brief for what the team should build. This process relies on a lot of experimentation and iteration. It's guided by user research and by the intended outcome. So you really need to also define what success looks like. Collaboration is key here. And again, I see a lot of organizations that don't invite the AI team to participate in this cross-functional effort. So I guess it's $1 million question. How much are you going to invest? And this is very basic, but if you're thinking about, what kind of bucket size of investment do we need? Are we starting at trying to figure out how we as an organization can be more efficient? How can we save time with tooling for our teams? Or are we, like many organizations in that space, of trying to figure out what are valuable ways to include, to harness AI in our products and services? Are there opportunities to innovate? In that space, I would recommend that you have at least a seasoned explorer who knows how to work in this space of high volatility, but also who knows what it takes to actually build an AI practice around that, should they find some valuable applications. Which brings me to the third bucket. You know that you want to create something, you actually need to grow a team, right? You don't just need the data to enable this, you also need the people and the skill sets. And integrate that into your operating model, into your organization, into cross-functional practices. The fourth bucket on the right is really, AI is your business. Think about the open AIs of the world, where the vast majority of the organization is actually the AI practice. I think a different kettle of fish, and probably not what we're looking at in this room today. So how do you balance the risk of, harnessing something new and the cost of delay? And the good news is Apple wasn't the first company to launch an MP3 player. You don't absolutely need to be the earliest of tinkerers. You don't need to be the first to market. You get to reap benefits from learning what other people have learned with their early exploration and start there as a stepping stone. So what can you glean from your competitors who are early to market here? What trends are emerging overall? But you do need to consider striking a balance between being fast or being early and understanding the risks of this new material, of this new space, and being too risk adverse to make a move, what we might call a wait and see approach. Because with major new disruptive technologies, we do know that eventually it'll become difficult to stay competitive if you're waiting for a very long time to figure out, what's happening with that new thing. One way to consider risk mitigation is by figuring out where you're adding the human in the loop. It's actually a concept from AI and similar systems that really speaks to looking at where human involvement is integrated at critical stages to supervise, to guide, or to intervene. It means that humans are part of the decision-making or operational processes, so they can provide oversight, correction, or approval. So in AI, we might use that for training AI systems, providing feedback to help the model perform better. It might be decision-making, particularly in high-stakes situations like medical diagnosis or autonomous driving. And continuous monitoring is all about stepping in when the AI might encounter complex, unforeseen, or ethically challenging situations. So how's your AI practice influencing strategy and execution? And I have a really short answer for that, rather than, I don't have time to dive deeply into this. But of course you need a robust data strategy, but AI should really influence business strategy at all levels. It shouldn't be a separated thing that we're doing in a silo over here. And in the same way, I'm borrowing the slide from earlier, not just a cross-functional product, but a cross-functional team that actually executes on this product. Picking up on David's point from earlier as well, you really need to integrate your AI experts into your cross-functional product team so they can work on identifying opportunities and solutions around shared outcomes, shared measures of success, and shared accountability. And we've all experienced this, I think. Things are evolving at lightning speed, and this is where we're coming back to the topic of operating models. And the question is yours flexible enough? Can it accommodate timely iteration? Can it accommodate change? For example, beyond the annual planning process? Can you actually facilitate the changes necessary to change strategic priority during the year? With the associated funding, staffing, governance. I see clients often struggle in this space between the ambition to harness new and rapidly evolving opportunities and the reality of the organizational structures that eventually grind these efforts to a halt. And the last point, I'm going back to one of Jess's tips this morning as well. It's like, I don't expect you, if you're not a data expert, to answer this, be able to answer this question, but it's really helping you understand what's our starting point on this journey. Where are we today with data? It gives us a better starting point for managing expectations realistically about what effort we need to make from today to where we actually want to get to with our AI ambitions. And here are all the questions to consider for your strategy on a neat slide, so you can take a quick photo of that. Just waiting for a second. Cameras are going up. Fantastic. And that actually brings us to the end of this talk. I know there's a lot under the hood with all of these questions, and we can only really touch on, on the super surface of all of this. But if you have questions around this, I'd love to connect, and I would love to continue the conversation. Thank you.